Good afternoon. Hello. Good afternoon. Good. Turn to your neighbor and say, welcome. Well said. So we want to begin our session this afternoon, and I want to invite Bishop Edwin to give us an opening prayer.
Let's believe and pray. God, our Heavenly Father, the Almighty and ever-living God, God who was, God who is, and God who will be forever, we want to say thank you, Lord, for this great opportunity that you have given us to gather here for the purpose of children, my Father. Thank you, Lord Jesus, because you loved the little children and you called on your people to allow them to come to you, for to such is the kingdom of God. Thank you, Jesus, for this opportunity. As we get started, we pray that you get started with us and your name will be praised, for in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you very much. I just want to make sure that we all have the program before us so that we can be able to read from the same page. Yes. Thank you. So our next agenda is just to get to know each other, and we want to take a very short time doing that. So just getting to know each other. So I would just request that we do quick introductions. As you introduce yourself, please, beyond your name, just tell us where you work and what you do, just so quickly. Thank you. So let me have the pleasure of beginning from Elisa. Charles, can you come and we have this mic around?
I'm the Early Childhood Development Technical Specialist with Episcopal Relief and Development, and very glad to be with you all.
Good afternoon. My name is Tabitha Nduko, an ECD consultant with Episcopal Relief and Development. So glad to be here and to learn what has been going on. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Frederick Odinga, a National Environment Coordinator, Anglican Development Services. I'm here to represent the director who wasn't able to be here. It's a pleasure to be here and looking forward to the findings. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Julio Mutemba. I'm from Mozambique. I work for REPS, the Regional Psychosocial Support Initiative, and I'm here to learn as well. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm Lynette Arisa, representing the International Center for Research on Women under the Youth, Women, Economic Empowerment and Security. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Jerry Sicola. I'm the Director for Early Childhood Development at Episcopal Relief and Development, and it just occurred to me you are going to hear our name throughout, and you probably don't know who we are. So Episcopal Relief and Development is a US-based international NGO that is supported by and has been traditionally supported by the Episcopal Church in the United States, which would translate here to the Anglican Church. So we have been in long partnership with the Anglican Church here in Kenya.
Hello, my name is Josh Jung. I am from the US at Emory University, and I was part of this research study with Michael, who will now introduce himself.
Hello everyone, my name is Michael Ochieng, evaluation specialist at B&M Consult. I'm glad that we are here today to listen to the results. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Isabella Kasaya from Anglican Development Services Western Region. I'm the head of programs and partnerships.
Good afternoon. My name is Nelia Mutiz from Mozambique. I worked for WHO country of Mozambique and responsible for child adolescent health program and nutrition. And I am happy to be here to learn more with other countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Esther Elisaria from Ifakara Health Institute. I'm a chief researcher, basically around maternal, child, and adolescent health, nutrition, and ECD.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Caroline Kadiari. I come from the Ministry of Health, Division of Nutrition. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Esther Navacha. I work with Episcopal Relief and Development as a program officer, and I'm based in Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Gertrude from Mozambique. I work with the RDPI, is a ECD network, and I work as the executive secretary. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Domingo Chisano. I'm from Mozambique, president of RDPI Forum. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kelvin. I am doing media and live streaming today. Thank you so much.
Good morning. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bradley. I'm assisting Kevin on the camera works.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Alois Gikunda. I work with Amref Health Africa in Kenya. And my work is around integrating primary health care, ECD into primary health care. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sherry Smith. I am a program manager at the American Academy of Pediatrics, and I oversee our early childhood development work, working with the pediatric associations in Kenya, Tanzania, and Mozambique.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Antonio Nyaga. I direct programs at the African Institute for Children's Studies, where we are passionate about changing child-focused policies into practical solutions for communities. Honored to be here.
Good afternoon. My name is Fidelina Ndunge. I work at Amref Health Africa in Kenya. I lead ECD, Adolescents and Young People's Health, and glad to be here.
Hamjambo. Hamjambo tena. For those who don't know what I am saying, I'm actually saying, how are you? How are you once again? So my name is Richard Kimenye from the Ministry of Health, a program lead for the Nurturing Care for ECD program, and happy to be here.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Steven Amusala, Executive Director at ADS Western. Happy to be here.
Thank you.
Good afternoon to you all. My name is Samuel Omondi, Executive Director, ADS Nyanza. Happy to be with you here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joyce Wanderi. I work for Girl Effect. I'm the head of programs.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I'm David Kodia, Bishop of the Anglican Church of Bondo, at the same time the National Chair for the coordinating team on ECD, Advisory Committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Edwin Ogola Otieno, Bishop with the Church of Christ in Africa, a member of ADS Advisory Board on Moments That Matter. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Erin McCarthy, Senior Officer for Learning and Evaluation at the Conrad Hilton Foundation, and I support our global early childhood development work. So delighted to be here.
Thank you, Erin.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Amanda Kimonge, and I'm from WHO Tanzania, and I support early childhood development and immunization at the country office. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So that is done, and my name is Tobias Saulo. I work for the Anglican Development Services as the Programs Manager.
Good afternoon. My name is Priscilla Amwa, a Senior Program Officer with Episcopal Relief and Development in the Early Childhood Development Cluster. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. And I'm Charles Sombonya, the Projects Coordinator for Early Childhood Development at ADS Nyanza. It's my pleasure to have you this afternoon.
Thank you very much. So I think from that introduction, we ensure that we have the right people in the room. And with that, I want to quickly introduce and welcome Jerry Sikola for a welcoming remark. Welcome, Jerry.
Thank you, Tobias. And again, welcome to everyone. Good afternoon. And on behalf of Episcopal Relief and Development, now you know who we are, it is my pleasure to welcome Richard Kameni, the Acting Program Lead, Nurturing Care, Early Childhood Development in the Ministry of Health, Kenya, officers of various government ministries and departments in Kenya, other distinguished guests, collaborating partners, stakeholders, and friends of ours. Thank you for being here. We're delighted to have you and your interest in the work that we're doing and this learning agenda and the findings of this very robust externally conducted project that evaluated the impact on early childhood development program in Nyamira and Vihiga counties here in Kenya. The moments that matter that you see on the front of your cover and I think on the sign outside is actually, we call it a program, but it's actually a program partnership of Episcopal Relief and Development and our partners here in Africa, in this case, ADS Nyanza and ADS Western. This program over many years was co-created. Zambia was the first country that took this approach to ECD for children 0 to 3, and so in this co-creation, we named it Moments That Matters as an early childhood development partnership. It prioritizes children 0 to 3 and their caregivers. And this particular research has been extremely meaningful and productive, especially with our partners here in Kenya. They have been amazing. We couldn't ask for better partners to actually be working with the most important people in the world, and that is the caregivers of children and children themselves, because they're the future. We've been blessed and honored to work with you. I just want to say that here. We're most appreciative of the work of Dr. Josh Jong and his team at Emory University in Atlanta in the United States, and Michael Ochieng, who led the team here from B&M Consultants in Kenya. They carried out the research. And we also, of course, need to recognize the county governments in Nyamira and Vihiga, though they're not here with us, but obviously we couldn't do this without their blessing and their approval. I'd like to express gratitude to the Hilton Foundation, the Conrad and Hilton Foundation, who funded this research. They've long been not just a supporter of Episcopal Relief and Development, but we go way back as thought partners and co-creators. So we're very, very grateful and proud to be with you. We're excited to share and celebrate the results of this study. We celebrate that we have built on evidence that we already had from prior work, and we've built on it and increased the evidence of the approach we use with MTM, that it has positively impacted the lives of thousands of caregivers and children. We celebrate the positive outcomes across domains of nurturing care and caregiver well-being, and improvements even in some ECD outcomes. And the increase, this is a really interesting one, in male caregiver engagement, which has resulted in harmony in the household and caregiver well-being, which I know you will be hearing about. We also celebrate that the research provides valuable information and insights on where we need to improve, how we have to adapt, what we need to tweak, what we need to change to have even greater impact going forward in the future, not just here in Kenya, but in all of the programs where we are doing this ECD work. We deeply appreciate the time, energy, and expertise invested in the research, in the reports that have been written, and the team and the dedication and commitment of the work of ADS Nyanza and ADS Western. We hope that the discussions today will generate a lot of good conversation and ideas that you will take with you and offer to us, as we always try to improve what we're doing. And once again, thank you for honoring us with your presence and your interest in this research. Thank you.
We can do better, right? Okay, let's do better. Thank you, Jerry. It is also important to inform the audience that we have had community-level dissemination. We have had dissemination at the county levels. That's why you are not seeing the county officers here. And we also had dissemination at the regional block level. That is the Lake Region Economic Block. So this is the apex as we are having different partners convening here. So with that, kindly allow me to invite Kimenya Richard from the Ministry of Health. Please come, Richard, to give an opening remark. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Tobias. Good afternoon, colleagues. So I think it's a pleasure to see the number in which we have heeded the invite call from the ministry, but also from the implementers of the survey for this important dissemination. So my name is Richard Kimenye. I'm the program lead for nurturing care and early childhood development at the ministry. And part of what we lead in the ministry is the clarion call and vision for the country. A country where every child, beyond survival, beyond thriving, actually live to their fullest in terms of their well-being, ability-wise, through all the domains, and also in the ability to contribute positively to the growth of our country. So as a matter of finding a place with regards to what we are doing today, it's really going to talk much to the area of M&E and research, just basically contributing to the basket of evidence in our journey as a country to identify the elements and the indicators that we need as a country to track the very well-being of this child beyond their survival and thriving. So it is an important activity, and for that matter, we are all eager to see what findings that the survey did with regards to improving caregiver well-being and the ECD outcomes we very much advocate for. So without further ado, I think we are used to declaring meetings officially open. So allow me to declare this one open even as we go into engaging into the robust discussion of the meat of the survey in terms of the recommendations, in terms of the findings. So welcome, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So good people, you now know we do it better. So thank you very much. Then I want to invite the Executive Director, EDS Nyanza, because this is the team that partly did this. So Sam.
Thank you, Tobias. Good afternoon once again. My name is Samuel, as was already said, the Executive Director, ADS Nyanza. On behalf of ADS Nyanza, I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you in this room. For you who have made time to come and listen to the findings that are coming from the field. These findings are very, very important to all the stakeholders represented in this room, be it at the government level for policy tweaking, be it on the ground as implementers, or even the funding partners. So we are extremely grateful to our funding partners who made this possible. And these are the Episcopal Relief and Development, in partnership also with the Hilton Foundation. Thank you very much for the journey we have walked, and even for deciding that it is in our areas of implementation that this research was to be done. We feel very honored because the recommendations that will be forthcoming, that will be coming from our discussions, are going to go a long way in helping us do things differently, improve here and there for the betterment of the life of the children. Otherwise, I don't have much to say, just to welcome my chairman for the advisory council to come and give us some few words of wisdom, and then we take the program forward. Karibu.
Thank you, Sam. I don't know whether wisdom is there, but we just have to congratulate ourselves that we are showing a great concern for our children ministry, their care, their upbringing, their future, which to us is the foundation for which all other investments are hinged on. We are in a world that gaps are emerging at every generational level, with young people forming their own cultural values somewhere distant from us, with many laws being passed to safeguard certain measures that we need to take in order to protect our children. When I was asked to be the chair of the National Advisory Council, I asked, I'm someone who had been in a lecture hall for so many years, a professor up there dealing with matters affecting children here. I looked at myself and say, is it really me that can be able to do it? But I later realized that that is the core business of any church minister, how to help the young people grow responsibly, how to help the parents also to act responsibly as parents. Today, we want to shift responsibilities to schools when it comes to matters of children. Say teachers will deal with them. A child that you cannot be able to deal with, don't expect that other people will be able to deal with. Otherwise, our main focus in the Advisory Council is to promote the culture of care amongst every sector of community development. From school, from churches, we advocate for that attention which our children need, not as a way of pampering them, but as a way of integrating their aspirations from the very infant stage up to their other levels of growth. Because we always say that they are the future. They cannot just be the future before they become the present. So when they are with us, we treat them as part of us. Last Sunday, I had a problem in my church when I had a very big function and the church was full and the children were outside. They were left outside because adults had to be in the church. I asked the adults to stand up and I asked the young children to come in and fill the seats. That's when I asked the adults, now you can find your seats. Because the thing is, we always tend to think that leftovers are for the children, but the real meat is for the adults. That's a bad culture that we have to address. So that is why I'm very much passionate about the children's ministry from the family level. So our emphasis is not just in schools or in churches, but also at family level. Where is the space for that young, upcoming adult in our agenda? Or they are not supposed to be delayed. Thank you so much. And I want to say thank you so much, the Episcopal Church. You have been so much passionate in supporting our initiatives. And that is the partnership that we need, so that no one is up and no one is down, but all of us, we focus on one thing, that child of God who is crying for justice. That is the most vulnerable person. All of us, we must ensure that his life is protected, his dignity is protected, his aspiration is also protected, and everything that supports that. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Bishop Professor Kodia. We all heard that they cannot become the future before they become the what? The present. Thank you. I want to invite Erin from Hilton Foundation to be able to.
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, and I just want to thank you again for making the time this afternoon. I know there are multiple events that we are hosting this afternoon, so just delighted to see such a great turnout for this event. Partners from all over Kenya, as well as Mozambique and Tanzania. And so what a great opportunity to learn today. And I would say that you're in for a treat. So just thank you in advance to our partners at the Government of Kenya, our partners at ERD, ADS, the research team, and everyone who's made this possible. As a funder of early childhood development and an initiative that's focused on the youngest children, 0 to 3, we know that parenting interventions and supports are one of the most effective ways to improve early childhood development outcomes. We know that there's a strong global evidence base, but we have less certain examples, less certain evidence in many of the places that we're working, including Kenya, as well as some of our neighboring geographies. And this is really an opportunity to learn. We have partners in this room who are absolutely committed to learning about what works to improve the lives of children and their families and communities. And we had this opportunity to layer on a very strong evaluation that not only looks at the questions around what works for early childhood development, but in what ways, how, and why. And so really unpacking some of those qualitative pieces and the complexity of it all. So without further ado, I'm not going to give any teasers to the results, but it's been such a pleasure to be on a learning journey with this team, and we've been so privileged, I would say, and fortunate to be able to support this program as well as the research. And just want to thank you for this opportunity, for your participation today, and looking forward to the dialogue and discussion.
Well done. Thank you very much. So all that effort is just to lay the ground for Josh and also for Ocheng so that they're able to present. We know that you have not been in the journey of moments that matter. And even as we present the results, it's important to connect the result with the theory so that you're able to see whether the result ties with the theory or whether we are actually on that path. So in that regard, I want to invite Priscilla Amua just to let us know what is the concept in the moments that matter. And so if the results are presented, how are we able to connect the result to the concept and the theory of change in the moments that matter? Priscilla, welcome. I had wished that you'd welcome Priscilla as she came.
Welcome us.
Because you can see.
Thank you. So I'd like to share a brief overview of our Moments That Matter program. I believe you all have copies of this. Do you? So can we open to page 6? Are we all there? Okay. So Moments That Matter, I think Jerry talked a bit about that. It's an early childhood development program, partnership of Episcopal Relief and Development and our implementing partners. And it's actually focused on the critical ages of 0 to 3 years, when the quality of care that children receive can really affect them for the rest of their lives. You will realize that our Moments That Matter program model is actually focused on the nurturing care framework. So in that period of 0 to 3 years, we focus really on strengthening the caregiver-child relationship and the child's cognitive, language, motor skills, and the social and emotional development, while actually also promoting healthy family dynamics and parenting. So when you look at the framework for our Moments That Matter, you would see the nurturing care framework for children 0 to 3 years on page 6. And you realize that we actually have 5 interconnected areas. We do have the responsive care and early learning, which we really focus a lot on. We have the family livelihoods, and for that, we actually focus on what we call savings with education. We also have the nutrition, where we do a lot around nutrition education and referrals at the household level. We have maternal and child health, where our community change agents really work together with the community health promoters on referrals and ensuring that there is complete referrals. We also have the safety and security. I believe when Josh presents, you have a lot of what that entails. We work with a number of change agents, and when you look at page 7, you realize that we have 3 main change agents in the program who mobilize our communities for nurturing care. So we have their roles and what results we actually expect from them, from the roles they play at the community level. So first of all, we have the ECD committees who really have oversight of the programs at the community level. And you realize that they do local ECD action planning and sustainability. They have oversight of the program, like I said, and the ECD promoters, and they help to develop and strengthen linkages to service providers. We have our faith leaders. I believe at this morning's session, we heard a lot about the role of faith leaders, the powerful role they play, because they are everywhere and they are very, very influential. And so they help to promote nurturing care parenting. They encourage social norm change. We heard a lot about how culture can really impact the work we do. and also specific support to families, especially around psychosocial support. And then we have our key agents, the ECD promoters, who are community people who are trained and equipped to actually do two major things at the community level. So when you look at page 6 on this side, you realize that we have the caregiver support and learning groups and the home visits. So the trained and equipped ECD promoters facilitate monthly caregiver support and learning groups. And we do have a number of topics, a topic for each month that they concentrate on. The caregiver support and learning groups, I would say, is also an opportunity for the caregivers to actually come together as a group, share their challenges, share their successes, able to bond together. At the home level, we also have monthly home visits, where the promoter visits each caregiver on a monthly basis, and also provide support to the caregiver and the families in that aspect. Josh will be sharing a lot, but all I would like to say at this point is that the model is really effective. We have a lot of good results. There is also the opportunity to learn. I believe that is why we are all here together. There are various materials we use in our program. We have what we call the farmer cards. We have action passports, etc., that we use to engage our caregivers. We've also done a lot around male engagement, and I believe once the findings are being shared, you hear a lot about that. So thank you for now, and I believe if there are some questions later, Jerry wants to add on.
Thanks, Priscilla. I just wanted to add one thing because a question came up this morning in the adolescent mothers discussion where one of the panelists, or several, were talking about sustainability. And one of the things that this research didn't really look at, but is an essential part of the program, not mentioned in here, is that the program runs in 3 cycles. In the first cycle, the partner is really hands-on with those change agents and faith leaders, for example. In the second cycle, responsibility starts to shift to the communities and to the ECD committees. Because in the third cycle, it is expected that the community owns this approach to nurturing care. It becomes not a project, but a part of their life, and actually the funding, it really is withdrawn. And we're finding, we haven't done cycle 3 yet in Kenya, but in Zambia, for example, we're finding that the communities are taking over and taking on this and expanding out with peer caregivers and into other communities as well. So I just mentioned it only because, not because it was part of this, but because a question came up this morning about sustainability of programming. So I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. And as Jerry just mentioned, one of the areas where we work, let me just go through the other areas. So we work in Ghana, we work in Kenya with ADS Nyanza and ADS Western, we work in Malawi, we work in Mozambique, we work in Namibia and Zambia. And we are looking forward to some expansion into other countries in the coming years. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Priscilla. Thank you. So let me have the honor of now inviting Josh to begin us. Welcome, Josh.
Hello. So this work is presented jointly with Michael Ochieng. So we will kind of pass it off, but this has been developed together. This has been a partnership that we've done since actually 2022, when we started working on this kind of proposal. So this has been a long journey, so to speak, and the research was just completed earlier this year. So these results are actually very hot off the press, so to speak. We've worked very hard over the past 6 months to get all of this information processed, to get the reports together, to have multiple discussions with partners. So this is very much alive and still being processed amongst our team. And so we are really excited to bring others into this discussion, to share some of these results, and hopefully think together based on what we're presenting today to see if there's any common experiences that other people have in the room, perspectives as an outsider or as someone working also in the field. As you hear some of these results, what are some of your reactions and interpretation? So very much something that we'd love to open up the discussion. So today I'm going to be presenting the external evaluation findings of the MTM program in Western Kenya. We did a randomized controlled trial or an impact evaluation to see, does this program improve child development and caregiver level outcomes? And we also did a process evaluation. So I'm not going to go into this because Priscilla really just explained what is MTM. And our study was done in Nyamira and Vihiga. We know that this program focuses on children 0 to 3. It's an 18-month-long program, so in terms of the exact dates, we started, or the implementation began in May 2023. It ended in November 2024. As Priscilla said, there are monthly group sessions, there's monthly home visits, there's also the savings groups, and multiple delivery agents are involved and trained. Sorry, I'm blocking. I don't know where's the best place to be. So maybe, yeah, this place is better. So yes, there are multiple change agents who are involved in reaching the caregivers and sharing this information to support caregivers with young children. And it is based off of the Nurturing Care Framework, which we all have in this document. So the evaluation that we aim to study had two guiding questions. The first was to look at the effectiveness of MTM for improving, thank you, child development and caregiving outcomes. So this is what we had sought to address through the RCT. And then we also wanted to study the process of MTM implementation. And so what affects quality? What are some of the barriers and facilitators? What are some of the mechanisms by which the program is working? That is all captured in 100 pages in the report, so it's very hard to really explain that today, but hopefully at some point these reports will be shared. We're working on manuscripts to share this information in a scientific audience, so stay tuned for more of the details. And in terms of the research design, we did a cluster randomized control trial. So this is considered a very strong method of estimating a program's impacts by reducing bias and having a very strong study design. So we had a baseline, an end line, which was done right after the program ended, and then we did a 6-month follow-up that ended in May, very recently. And the qualitative evaluation, we did 2. We did an initial qualitative evaluation very early on into the program. So as the implementing partners were just starting out, what can we learn together by adding research into the implementation? And then after the full program was delivered, let's study it more generally, comprehensively, at a high level. So with the quantitative impact evaluation, this refers to the randomized control trial results. So first I'll describe some of that. Then Michael will come and share some of the qualitative process results. And then we have a couple of slides at the end that are just some of the maybe the most prioritized discussion points that we'd love to share based on our interpretations, and hopefully that can lead us into a wider discussion. So the RCT was done in 46 villages in Nyamira and Vihiga counties. And so in both Nyamira and Vihiga, we have both intervention villages and control villages. And so ultimately 24 villages were in the intervention group, 22 villages were in the control group, and in total we have 595 primary caregivers who all had a child 0 to 18 months at baseline. So these are caregivers with very young children. Even though the program supports older children, for the research we wanted to focus on young children to measure child development. So just a diagram of how we did our research. So we did the baseline in March of 2023. The intervention is 18 months. So that went, and very early on into the implementation, we had a qualitative evaluation. After the end of the intervention in November 2024, we did the end line, and we also did a qualitative evaluation. And then we did the 6-month follow-up where the program had officially ended, and we wanted to study what kind of results are being sustained or fading out, and better understand kind of the sustainability of effects. So the next 4 slides are just going to talk very high level. I know this is a lot of text, and more of the details are in these pamphlets, so please feel free to take that, read it, better understand some of the very high level details here. But our main measure for the randomized control trial, or to see if MTM works, is to measure child development. That is what the program aspires to improve, and that is what we were tasked to measure to see if that held up. So we measure child development with 2 measures: the CREDI, the Caregiver Reported Early Development Instruments, and the GSED, the Global Scales for Early Development. How many people in this room have heard of CREDI or GSED? Okay, like half of the room. So we're in a good place. And for the other people who haven't heard about it, they are relatively new tools. These have been developed in the past 5 years. So you are not alone, and these are some of the first results using CREDI or GSED in Kenya for an impact evaluation. So we have a lot to learn, and hopefully you all have experiences that we can learn from as well. So we measured CREDI, which is asking the caregiver, can your child crawl? Can your child recognize their name? Can your child respond when you instruct them to do something? And then the GSED is it's a task where you present many different activities or materials with the baby, you see what they can do, and you observe that with your own eyes, rather than asking the caregiver whether the baby can do these tasks. For early learning, the domain of the nurturing care framework, we measured that in terms of stimulation practices, so the number of activities that parents are doing with their children, the number of play and learning materials that are available in the home, children's books, and if that is increasing. Child safety and security was measured in terms of positive discipline, as well as harsh discipline. So asking the caregivers, in the past month, have you done blah, blah, blah? Have you beaten your child? Have you put them in time? Have you tried to explain to them when they do something wrong rather than beating them? Have you called them bad names? Different types of disciplinary practices. And then we also look at birth registration, so whether caregivers are reporting that their child was registered with civil authorities. Psychological well-being, we have 4 different measures. So one is parenting stress. The second is depressive symptoms. Third is social support. So how well supported does a caregiver feel, or do they have a friend or a family member or a neighbor that they can turn to if they're experiencing some troubles? Community connectedness. We also measure violence not just against the child, which is the harsh discipline, but also against women or IPV. So asking female caregivers if they had experienced any sort of violence in the past 3 months. And then we also measure male caregiver involvement. So whether men are also engaging in stimulation, whether men are also using disciplinary practices that might be positive or negative, as well as household chores. So how many activities and how often are men cooking, changing the child's diapers, doing other activities within the household. And all of these measures that we used are good measures, so to speak. They are validated and have been used in different contexts in the region, and we were able to see that they were reliable and valid. So generally, we are pretty confident that these are common or that measures that have been used in the field. And finally, we also measure nutrition in terms of dietary diversity, so the number of foods that the child was fed or had eaten, as well as kitchen gardens, because this is another component of the intervention. So if parents are actually establishing kitchen gardens, health in terms of standard kind of UNICEF mix items around illness in the past 2 weeks, care-seeking behaviors. So we see how, or what we had done in the evaluation is try to look at many different domains, because often in parenting research and most ECD programs, they typically focus on a particular behavior like stimulation and discipline. But with a program like MTM, where it tries to encompass many other aspects, can our research also measure that, and what are those results? So the quantitative results, I will try to keep in 5 minutes because, again, all of this information is in these pamphlets. So just to give a very high overview, our sample of 595 caregivers were mostly the mothers. So 91% of the caregivers in this research study are mothers, but 7% are grandmothers, and very few are men. Most caregivers do not have a high education level, so only 43% have completed secondary school. So that the majority do not have a secondary school education. This is a distribution of our children in terms of age. So we enroll children 0 to 18 months, and you see generally, I mean, these are very small differences, but generally children are covering the whole age range, and on average, children are 9 months of age, so smack in the middle of 0 to 18. So these slides, I'm gonna go very quickly now. So if you're not on this train, we will kind of lose you. But these slides are each going to show a different type of outcome. And so what I want to make sure we understand is this figure on the right. So the way we've organized this is that you see this horizontal, thick gray line. That is a score of 0. It is an effect size or a standard deviation of 0. So anything above, higher than the line, is a good result. And when you see these whiskers, that's a 95 confidence interval. You don't really want to see these whiskers crossing this thick horizontal line, because that means we're not really sure what the result is. But the higher these numbers, the more confident and larger the effects are. And so these are showing, each column is showing a different CREDI score. So we have the CREDI overall, the CREDI cognitive, the CREDI language, the CREDI motor, CREDI socio-emotional, the GSED. And generally what we're seeing is that these numbers are relatively small, around 0.2, and many of them are crossing this horizontal line, which means we don't really know if this is a real positive effect. So generally the takeaway is that the MTM results on ECD are not really clear. The only one for which we do see a positive and statistically significant improvement is child socio-emotional development. So 1 out of these 7 outcomes, there was a positive effect on. So this is the child CREDI socio-emotional development, which is significantly higher than the control group. So now we're looking at impacts on early learning. So we have stimulation, learning materials, and books, and all of these scores are high positive and not crossing this line, which means they're all statistically significant. So MTM improved caregiver stimulation, MTM improved the number of learning materials in the home, and MTM, or families who were part of MTM, had more books than those families in the control group. Here are the results for safety and security. So the first is positive discipline, violent discipline, physical discipline, psychological discipline, and birth registration. And these three outcomes, the violent discipline, physical punishment, psychological aggression, are all reduced. So there's a significant reduction in caregivers who are part of MTM in these harsh disciplinary practices compared to parents in the control group who are using a lot more discipline. These are the results for mental health, where these two outcomes, social support and community connectedness, have improved. So those are good things that we want to see. And these three outcomes are negative mental health outcomes, like stress, depressive symptoms, financial worries, and these are all lower and significantly lower in the intervention than the control. So far we're seeing parenting is improving, harsh disciplinary practices is reduced, mental health and many different outcomes or measures of mental health are improved. And here now we're looking at violence against women. And any IPV, any emotional IPV, and any economic IPV are drastically reduced for women in the MTM program compared to those in the control group. And physical discipline is reduced, but it doesn't cross the line of statistical significance, so that one is not a meaningful or a observable effect. And then finally, male caregiver involvement. We see that men who are in MTM households are doing more household chores, they're playing more with their children, engaging in stimulation. So the program is not just benefiting the women, but also their partners. And with health and nutrition, it's a bit more mixed, where we see improvements in the kitchen gardens, improvements in dietary diversity, and referrals, but no difference in child illness or healthcare seeking. And this is a figure that maybe you may want to read when you go back home or as you look at this in your pamphlets, but it's plotting all of the outcomes on the same scale so you can compare them. And they're color coding the different outcomes by the type of domain that it represents. So yellow is child development, pink is mental health, orange is the gender and the male caregiver outcomes, and it's plotting from left, which shows the outcomes that had the biggest results, to the right side, which are the outcomes that had the smallest results. So very, very quickly, I just want to go through now the 6-month follow-up results. So the ones that I just showed everyone is when we study MTM right after the program ends. So if we did the program, right after the program ends, we study the outcomes. That is what we had just presented. These next couple slides are going to show what do the outcomes look like when you do nothing for 6 months and you watch and see what the change is between the end line and the 6-month follow-up, and compare if the effects are still there, or if the effects have disappeared, or if new effects are coming out. And that's how these next slides are gonna be organized. So these are the results on early learning, so stimulation and materials and books. So the orange are the results at end line. Right after the program ended, this is what we found. And then right next to it in green are the results for that outcome when we study them 6 months post-intervention. So we see for stimulation, these effects are basically sustained. They're the same effects. Positive results are continuing to be positive for stimulation even after 6 months. The same thing with books. These effects are very similar. With stimulation materials, however, it has decreased a lot. It has decreased by 50%, right? The effect size has cut in half. For safety and security, these results are generally consistent. Parents after 6 months of the program being over, are continuing to use less harsh discipline against their children in the same difference that was observed when the program just ended. So reassuring to see. Psychological well-being, generally true too. Social support, this first outcome, is sustained. Community connectedness has reduced, as well as parenting stress, but they're still significant. But then depressive symptoms and financial worries are no longer significant at the 6-month follow-up, whereas it was right after the intervention. And with intimate partner violence, these results are continuing to be sustained. Women continue to report being experiencing less violence by their male partners, and men's engagement in stimulation and household chores is generally similar between the 2 rounds. Health and nutrition is also somewhat similar, but then there's these other outcomes that have now become null. So a lot of details that we can't get into all of them right now, but just to show some of the trends. And then this last one. So part of the thinking with some of these parenting programs is maybe you need more time to see an effect. Maybe after the program ends, there aren't improvements yet, but if you wait a little bit more, the changes might appear for the children. And in our research and the program we did, and what we collected with MTM, we are not finding that case, where the green the results at the 6-month follow-up in green continue to be 0, basically. There's no effect on ECD. In the same way, we found no general effect on ECD at endline. And the socio-emotional result is no longer there. So I apologize that was a lot of information. It's very difficult when a research study measures 20 different outcomes, and everybody has their different interests. So we can talk more about that today or another time. But I want to pass this to Michael to talk through some of the qualitative results that we found and how that offers a different perspective to this external evaluation.
All right, thank you, Josh. So for the qualitative design, we are presenting data that was collected in November during the endline, and we did in-depth interviews, a total of 64. We talked to 22 mothers, 10 fathers, 12 ECD promoters, and 10 faith leaders. But we also did some focus group discussions, about 6 to 9 participants with the 4 ECD committees that were being part of the process. Sorry. Thank you. So this is what guided the qualitative. We looked at the program fidelity, asking whether the intervention implemented was as planned. We also looked at issues around program satisfaction, getting feedback from the stakeholders about the intervention. We also asked questions around program barriers and enablers to understand what were the challenges and what are some of those things that gave us those results. And then also got feedback from the stakeholders in terms of what do they recommend for future better results in this program area. So quickly, I want to share with you the results. In terms of program fidelity, one of the things we looked at was around the change agents' roles. And from the feedback we received is that ECD promoters were actually recognized as the primary change agents and delivered messages around the learning group sessions and the home visits. And the main messages that were delivered that people were able to remember were ECD, play, positive discipline, and male caregiver involvement. The other finding was that the faith leaders were also recognized as key change agents. And they delivered messages which focused on mainly male caregiver involvement, couples conflict, and faith-based messaging. And we also found that the faith leader involvement with caregiver varied. Some were more involved than others, depending on their connectedness. On program satisfaction, the feedback was that they were satisfied with the hybrid model, especially the home visits and the caregiver learning session groups, together with the savings and loan groups. They were also satisfied, the caregivers praised the performance of the change agents, that they were happy that the change agents did a good job and they were interacting with them regularly. The change agents also reported having a positive working relationship with each other. And lastly, the positive opinion about content on positive discipline, ECD, generals, and play. This is some of the content that they felt that was delivered well, and they were able to understand and were able to implement. This is a feedback that I won't read because of the time that we have left. They were also dissatisfied to some extent, and one main dissatisfaction was lack of financial support or incentive for caregiver. And this was really one of they had expectations, but that was not met. The other one is that some of the faith leaders expressed concerns about unequal treatment. They felt that some were treated better than others. They felt that the ECD promoters had more knowledge about what was happening and they were treated better, but them, they were involved maybe at some point when they are needed. So that was also part of what they gave us a dissatisfaction. We had a number of barriers, but these are some of the key barriers that we are able to present this afternoon. One is around competing responsibilities that prevents caregivers from participation. They talked about other commitments that were conflicting with the scheduled group sessions. Also, the change agents described difficulties in engaging male caregivers, and from what Josh presented, only 1% of the respondents were males, right? And engaging male caregivers became a little bit of a problem, and this is because around issues of gender norms that hinder men's program participation. The other one is around issues of religious and cultural norms. Some initial resistance, and especially around messaging to non-violent kind of discipline, because we are used to violent discipline, and therefore there's a bit of that resistance to try to change. Faith leaders are also busy with other responsibilities, and maybe that is why some felt left out, because they were not really available a number of times, and therefore they were not able to provide sufficient resources here. The enablers, the introduction of savings and loan actually increased caregiver participation, because that is what they saw as one of the things that was improving their economic abilities. Behavior change techniques such as group discussions, demonstrations, the games that they were having, and the farmer cards were huge enablers in this program. And then home visits and encouragement from change agents and other caregivers also increased male caregiver engagement at home. Thank you, and let me take it back to Josh to wrap up.
Thank you. So we only have 2 more slides. And this is kind of where we'd love to kind of end on this note, see what kind of reflections people have based on their experiences or as you hear our story. So the first takeaway for us to offer is that we found having multiple delivery agents, specifically the parents or the community members who are the ECD promoters, but also the faith leaders and them working together was an effective strategy. Not many programs, to our knowledge, do something like that, where you engage multiple people. Either programs often just work with faith leaders primarily or just work with community volunteers. And this approach of trying to engage both of them had its strengths. We talked about the challenges, but generally it was seen as complementary. And so a recommendation is really to strengthen the faith leaders' roles and their influence as we know they have, standardize their responsibilities a bit more, and maybe that can lead to even better complementarities. Another takeaway was how generally people like the program, but as Michael presented, they had expectations, either for material or financial support. And this is a challenge that everyone in this room can understand. It's not easy to do social behavior change programs when people want other things besides the counseling and the learning, and also recognizing that many communities are very, very poor and have other challenges besides just knowledge. And so this is a delicate recommendation, and we don't know what is the best strategy, and this will depend on different partners. But part of it would be really to communicate why there is no non-monetary approach to the program strategy, but also if there is a program that is involving livelihood support, or that is involving incentives or cash, how do you integrate that better so that you are addressing both the daily challenges that families face, while also making sure there's space for the parenting content to be received. And this is a thing that I'm sure ERD and ADS will continue to think through. We talked from the RCT results how there's actually many good results out of this. I think this is a useful addition to the literature, because we're seeing improvements in caregiver mental health. Nutrition, this is not a primarily nutrition program, but there are improvements in dietary diversity and many of these other outcomes. Even violence against children and women. How did a parenting program that is not touching upon violence in every single session, leading to these meaningful, sustained changes? And so these are good results that we see even with the 6-month follow-up. But we cannot ignore or not choose to grapple with the fact that there are no meaningful or observable and powerful results on child development. Most of these were not significant. And so what does that mean? And there are many different thoughts. I'm sure people have worked on projects that also find that child development is difficult to shift or difficult to measure, and both can be true. I think part of what MTM can reconsider is looking through the program a bit more, looking through the curriculum, looking through the activities and the training and the supervision to see how much of that approach really focuses on play, child development, caregiver relationships, bonding, responsive care, because these are the ingredients we know is really important for ECD. And so while the violence is important, while building responsible parents and raising children and putting children at the center is definitely part of the puzzle, how do we also make sure that some of these more specific strategies are elevated within the program? So part of it is the content, part of it might be the training and the supervision strategies that are being used with the ECD promoters, the faith leaders, the ECD committees, just to make sure that everyone's understanding of parenting, nurturing care, child development is with this same guiding star of improving children's skills and development. So I apologize this was very, very long, but I thank you for bearing with us and being engaged. We need to thank so many people who have been part of this work with us. Michael and his team at B&M Consult, they're open for business. So if anybody needs a great implementing partner, they are here. We thank ERD for trusting us to do this research with you, for being so open with all of the findings and the learnings, both the easy ones and maybe the challenging ones, and the same with ADS for helping us do this research, working together in every step of all the data collection activities we've done. obviously the community members who have contributed their stories and their data into what we are presenting, and then the Hilton Foundation and Episcopal Relief and Development for funding various aspects of this research. So thanks everybody, and yes, we are here to answer questions and further discuss the research. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Mike. We saw and we heard, correct? Thank you. So allow me to invite Priscilla for the next engagement. We know you have questions. Oh, Jerry, you want to say something?
Chance to look at in the book, and I want to go back to sort of reinforce Josh's, we're deeply going through the recommendations and the findings, because they have implications not just for Kenya, but for our work in every other country. And one of the things that is of particular interest in the ECD outcomes, which was not part of what Josh was asked to sort of disaggregate, but we found that there were differences in the two communities on the ECD outcomes. And you'll see the chart on page 12 that there are differences. In one, there are very positive outcomes, and in the other, not so. And that is something that we deeply want to understand, because my suspicion is if we did the same thing in another country with two different communities, with two different contextual realities, whether it's poverty or culture, that we would also see some of those differences, which means we really have to look at how the program is being delivered, what the curriculum looks like, what the facilitation looks like, et cetera. So that's a really important next step for us on those ECD outcomes. Priscilla?
I'm right here, Jerry. Thank you so much, Josh and Michael, for that very clear presentation. I believe we have a number of questions and comments. We would love to do this differently. First of all, we would love to spend some time in our table groups to dialogue about what we heard from Josh and Michael. And so you all have a list of questions on your table. The first one is, what did you hear that is similar to your experience? I believe we are all in this work together, and you have some experiences. We would want to know what is similar to your experience. Number two, what really surprised you from the results? And then number three, what are you most curious about? So discuss these in your groups. And like I said, I know you have so many questions. So as you discuss, come up with your questions and offer 3 questions. Each table should offer 3 questions. We have pieces of papers, 3 each. Please write each question on a piece of paper. Let's try to do this in about, Jerry, 10 minutes. And then we would take your questions and we would respond to that. Thank you. It's the same question for each table.
trying to really go into the zones of the so there was an attempt for that, but not to agree with that eventually, for you to synthesize the outcomes directly the child.
That's what yes. Are we using the wrong tools to measure the success of the program?
back in 5 minutes, so please start getting your questions on your pages.
And actually, in a different program, no time is not on our side, but in our different program, we can't use, these are just a paper, and we can't use it because we are measuring very low. We are not trying to develop our in-house, like observational tools, program-based tools that will measure the success or what we want to see as change. I think that's really what I used to
So what surprised you?
For me, what surprised me, and I think the lady from Episcopal tried to answer it, the significant difference between the two counties. Significant. One is being back. So, is it the implementation of the
Can we say if we are done, just by a show of hand, the table that is done, the table that is ready,
it's a new
so the table that is ready,
So we still go back to the question. Where exactly was this?
That was the next question.
Because it was never. Was it?
For the entire program, but for the study population, it is
The new program is a different concept.
It's a new concept.
Yeah, it's a new concept for them. Even the faith leaders over there, it's the first time for them. But in this concept, in this context, have been exposed to this MTM for a while. So they better less to
integrations within the health sector, any integrations within the health sector,
All right. Now you can't afford to ignore me. Hello? We are done. Thank you very much. You see the engagement is good. Hello? 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 Can I see those who are, if you're able to hear me? Thank you. If you're able to hear me, thank you. Thank you. If you're able to hear me, thank you. Richard, you can't assume me for too long. If you're able to hear me, gentlemen and ladies, are you able to hear me? Still, are you able to hear me? Thank you. All right, all right, all right, all right, all right. So we are collecting your questions. So Priscilla is collecting the questions, so please. We are collecting the questions. Thank you. Wow, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. For those who are doing the final draft, please get it over. Thank you. Wow, so we have how many groups?
2.
So far, 2 tables. Thank you for that effort. And for those who are completing, please. Thank you. So far, that is the 3rd table. We are looking forward to seeing what's coming from the 4th, 5th tables. So whose table is remaining? All right. Thank you. This has been very, very rich engagement. Thank you. So Priscilla.
We can start as we wait for one more table to get their questions on pieces of papers. If I can't read, I'll call you to come and read out. So, first question. How do we address the challenge of incentives and material expectations? Can anyone help us with this?
I think that's a larger question. It's not just directed to us. I think we all face it.
I know.
So I don't know that the researchers can't answer it for us, and I don't know that we can. I mean, one of the things that would be interesting to know in this situation was what other kinds of programs were going on in those environments, not related to the program. And so if there were other NGOs working and giving things away, or those are some things that we should always be doing in sort of community mapping what's going on as we're implementing programs. But I think there was a good recommendation from the researchers about starting earlier on in the program to integrate the savings and loan and possible livelihoods. Yeah. Thanks, Priscilla.
Thank you, Jerry. We have a question here. Did the project support the communities to make toys? Am I reading that correctly? Oh, I have here the project supports the communities with toys. With toys. Do you want to ask whether we support with toys? think I can respond to that, or would you, Tobias? So we don't purchase toys for caregivers and their children. We actually support them in making toys from locally available materials. So that is what we do. Another question, what do you think contributed to the very large and significant reduction in violence? Toby, is that you?
Well, I think it's just the various strategies put in place. We already spoke to the fact that there were faith leaders engaged. And as drivers of change, they have great influence. Their voices are heard quite well. And beyond that, there were the caregivers themselves who enjoyed capacity building and mentorship by the ECD promoters. So the various change agents, I think, spoke to what needed to be done differently. And that is what brought about that change. Thank you.
Yeah, I would just add, this is something we're really interested in and exploring more deeply. We've heard anecdotally and through qualitative research about this positive change within the home environment, this greater harmony, and then we see this very concrete reduction in the quantitative data around IPV. As Tobias mentioned, I think the engagement of faith leaders is really critical. In our caregiver support and learning group sessions, there are sessions around gender roles, family violence. So I think there's also some awareness among caregivers of the impact that the violence is having on the child. And I think another important factor is the increased involvement of male caregivers in both caregiving responsibilities and household chores, and the way that that begins to shift the power in that relationship and how that contributes to overall healthier dynamics. So just those are some of that's what we're mulling over and thinking about, but it's something we're really exploring.
Thank you. We're just trying to cluster the questions so that we see what can be answered by the research team and also the implementers and the rest of the team. So Priscilla.
Josh, we have a couple of questions for you. Why was both CREDI and GSED used? Maybe you can start.
So we decided to use CREDI from the beginning, from before we started the program, because of cost reasons. CREDI is much cheaper to do than GSED. Also, GSED did not exist and was not publicly available when we started our baseline. So there was no opportunity to even add it. But then during the implementation of our study, and because child development is the most important outcome that we wanted to see, we had an opportunity with additional funding from Hilton to measure child development with the GSED. So it was always an add-on and a secondary outcome just to build the evidence on what do we know when we look at these two outcomes. Unfortunately, it has made it hard to really know what is a result of GSED versus CREDI, because both of the results are not very clear. So I think more research needs to be done using multiple measures, but it was an accident on how we ended up using GSED.
Because this is very interesting for me, being a researcher. So when you used the GSED and the CREDI, were there, because I know CREDI was used to develop GSED, and the questions are quite similar, because there are questions for interview and for the observation, so they're quite similar. So do you think by using both maybe have influenced how mothers have responded to these questions? So maybe that's something we can look into, mothers' response and comparing the two measurements and see whether there was divergence between how they responded to tool 1 and the tool number 2 as part of your assessment, because the questions are actually quite similar.
I mean, I think that those types of questions, it's true. We collected GSED and CREDI for the main purposes of seeing what is the intervention effect on the outcomes. And we've looked at them separately. There's a lot more research that we can do to bring the two data points together and look at divergence or convergence, like you're saying. Just to clarify, our GSED measure, we did not use the report. We only use the observation. So the items are not exactly the same because the observations do a lot of things you can't ask about, whereas the GSED report and the CREDI are almost perfectly the same. The observations do things like putting shapes into like blocks and putting shapes into like putting a circle into a circle hole. You don't ask that in the CREDI, so it's a little bit, the questions are a little bit different. But I think you're right that there's a lot more analysis we should do. Yeah.
Josh, how were the communities sampled to ensure standardized results?
Yeah, so this is actually a part that, so our sampling for this research was actually driven a lot by the implementers. The implementers, ADS, guided us as to where we would be working for the intervention and control sites, and what was the selection criteria for these, what are they called, sub-counties, but also the level below the sub-counties, right? So we, for this research study, did not have, we did not sample randomly because we followed the implementation's lead. They told us that this is where you're gonna do the intervention, these are this is where you would do the control, and so that's, I don't know if that's answering the question, but it's a little bit of a different starting point. Once the sub-counties were selected, then we randomly selected some wards. That's what it was, right, Tobias?
You're right, Josh. So I think the question about communities are supposed to be responded to by ourselves. So to say is that our entry is the government. So once we had an opportunity to implement such a project, then we got to the various county governments. And our initial meeting was the multi-sectoral meeting that was domiciled in the office of the County Director of Health. And one of the issues that we presented was the eligibility, that we want to do this project. Our focus is this, and therefore we are asking the county to look at their data to see where the maternal child indicators are not good, including those of nutrition, areas which do not have partners who are doing something on early childhood, and areas where violence is there, and so on and so forth. So the county sat, both Vihiga and Nyamira, and looked through their data through the County Health and Records Information Officer, and for Vihiga, they narrowed down to a specific sub-county. And therefore, the county gave us a letter to go to that sub-county with clear instructions. So when we go to the sub-county, the next question was, in this sub-county, which is the most vulnerable ward in terms of these child indicators? So they gave us, the sub-county sat and gave us the ward. We went further to the ward and sat with the ward entire multi-sectoral team. And the next question was, within this ward, which are the villages which are most vulnerable? So by the time we were beginning implementation intervention on village A, sublocation A, and doing, having sublocation B as a control, we had gotten to where vulnerability is via the necessary steps. So when Josh and team came to do the study, it was now based on where we are doing intervention and where the control is. Does that answer some question? Okay.
particularly around what was the probability of the spillover effects, if there were any, and how are they handled?
Okay. So that is
And
that.
maybe the addition to the sampling
Yes,
part,
Josh, yes.
I just wanted to know, because even when you have the site where the implementation is happening in the control, you always have a basis of calculating the sample size. Maybe the effect size, which helps you to estimate the accurate sample size you need from that community X. So maybe Josh could help us whether that was...
Josh, back to you.
So really, really great questions. Let me answer the sample size one. So we did the sample size calculation to see an effect of 0.3 standard deviations in child development. The problem is, which is not great, is that the results we saw on the outcome were smaller, of 0.2. So the power calculations we did were not enough, is the takeaway from this research, because the intervention had a much smaller effect on child development, so we actually needed a bigger sample size. And so in the future, I would really encourage Hilton and anyone funding this type of research to power for smaller effects, because this intervention didn't have the effect that it should have based on the average effect in the field. So you can't hope that the average is what the programs are going to get. With your question about spillovers and contamination, we need more time and analysis time to do all of that. And you know what I'm talking about. Because when you do the main ITT analysis, you're just trying to figure out, does it work? You need more time to look at contamination. What % of the control were contaminated? What did they learn? You know, and we have that, and part of that also is sitting with the implementing partners. They should have some of this information within their M&E. So part of the next step is bringing the program data with the outcome data, even looking at the outcome data in the control and seeing contamination. So we just haven't done that analysis yet.
Then it's wrong to say that the effect size has to be minimized, because it might be that the effect was smaller because there was either contamination or spillover.
It's true.
Meaning that maybe the control site
It's true.
equally benefited from the intervention.
It's true.
Which makes your outcome to be smaller.
It's true. It is true. Yeah.
Is it related? Oh, last one on this, please.
Yeah. So I came a little bit late, but I'm Boniface Kakobe from UNICEF headquarters. I sit in the New York office. This issue of why are we not seeing results on child development outcomes? A lot is being said, but remember, even for the UNICEF ECDI 2030, we measure 24 to 59 months because it's very difficult to measure for the young ones. The young ones, they grow so fast. So their changes are so rapid that just doing like at a spot to say I'm measuring child development for this child is not so easy. So I think let's also face the reality of the nature of the age category we are focusing. I still believe there are some results, only that it's the measurement itself. The program, I think, has done a lot, but for me, I know there are researchers in the house. It's going back to that. You remember even by today, the SDG reporting, we are measuring the ECDI 24 to 59 months. That's the recommended measure. We are not yet at the stage where we are, I'm not saying the tools are bad, but it's because of the nature of the child development at that stage. So I think as we put the recommendation, I think time to go back, all of us, so that we, at least we can perfect and do it. But I'm convinced that there are some results, it's only that the measurement itself. Yeah.
Yeah, sort of a follow-on from my colleague from UNICEF. So given this age group of children and how deeply connected your health, nutrition, and development is in that phase of your life and how rapidly things change, besides nutrition, were any other sort of health indicators or outcomes considered in your analysis? Because that also would have an effect on whether you see any developmental changes.
This is a great question, and part of this discussion ideally would happen at the inception of any program, right? It's always easier to have, connect some dots after the results come about, and it's like, oh wait, well what about this? And I think when the program gets designed, it should articulate very clearly what outcomes is within the wheelhouse of the program to improve. What are they prioritizing or not prioritizing, and what are the components about the intervention that would actually contribute to that outcome? So when we talk about health, for example, this was something we did discuss, and we agreed that MTM is not directly addressing and improving observable health outcomes in the child. Part of it could be, the only pathway that was really discussed was maybe through referrals, but what the program would actually do to improve health wasn't very clear, so we didn't go forward in saying, okay, this is the main outcome that we'll look at. However, nevertheless, we did measure standard UNICEF indicators like caregiver report of diarrhea, fever, cough, so illness. All of those did not change at all because of the intervention. So one could argue there's a measurement challenge there, and there are other better ways of measuring health, which we didn't do. But using that approach, we didn't find a difference. We didn't measure growth. We didn't measure, the only things we measured were breastfeeding and dietary intake for nutrition. So it is true that there are many other factors why a child is not doing well that could impact the child's development. In the context of program evaluation, kind of studying what the program has more influence in was where we were thinking, but yeah, I think those comments are helpful for maybe ERD and ADS to think about, because they may have other thoughts.
Yeah, I just want to, yeah.
Yeah, no, I was just intrigued by your point earlier as well, by saying, you weren't entirely sure about who else was delivering or programs at the same time and how that could have had an influence. So I think in that context of what you've just said, Josh, by not just focusing on what this program delivers and the influence the program might have, it also helps you to account for the things that you don't know about. So it is something that maybe as we're moving forward, I think as a collective, we're all in the same space, right? This sort of just really thinking more deeply into that at the inception phase is like, what are the things we're not accounting for,
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
When you presented about the fidelity part, I expected a little bit of showing how many visits were made in the household, how intensive was the discussion, like did they deliver to the amount of the dose required, and was that dose received by the parents? So that could have informed us a little bit more on whether the program was delivered effectively, not necessarily on the perception side, but on the intensity of delivery, the dose delivered and the dose that has been received. And that could help us to know why the effect was not there. Is it because they delivered less than what was required? Is it that the visits were not made enough or something like that? So I missed that. Maybe if there is any information later, you can.
I think that's such an important point, and it speaks to how these results are not the end of the story, and there's so many other dimensions to look at this. The dose delivered data is housed by who? By M&E. Dose received, we have. We haven't had the time, again, we just collected these data 6 months ago, or I mean, not 6 months ago, it's almost a year. But we still need to do that analysis. But it is exactly right, because fidelity is quantifiable and it should be added to these impact evaluation results. So I appreciate that point.
Yeah, just a couple of things. Because of the complexity around early childhood development outcomes, everything from parenting to nutrition to health, we have traditionally really focused much more on parenting as a proxy and less on the actual ECD outcomes. And now we're really flipping that. We're not flipping it. We're saying now that we want to dive much more deeply into what contributes to those outcomes. So we're on that track, very much so, and very, very excited about it. We have some new tools for like a checklist that that is looked at in terms of the home visits and the caregiver support and learning groups to monitor a lot of what's going on during the implementation, to look at fidelity. There's another piece that was not included in the research. We've introduced something called the caregiver passport, and this is a tool that has become really, we're saying it's a change maker with the caregivers. Everything they're learning in their sessions and bringing home, they're monitoring themselves in this passport with the pictures that were in the FAMA cards during the lessons. And when the promoter goes to visit, they're actually looking, it's like a report, it's like the health card that families love to keep and keep securely. They're doing that with the passports, and it's become a game changer, even in getting the fathers interested when they see this thing on the table at home. They're now picking it up and saying, you know, oh, can I get involved in this? So there are a lot of these elements that we now have to figure out how to monitor and quantify, as well as the anecdotal pieces.
Let's just rest. And let me get to Tobias. What are some of the reasons behind the improvement in male engagement practices? What specifically contributed to those?
Thank you. Let Tobias rest, Charles.
Thank you very much. At the onset of implementation of the moments that matter, we are very deliberate that even as the ECD promoters register the households, they do for both the male and the female caregivers. And if in the first round they don't find the males, they make appointment for when the males will be present. As they do the home visits, we encourage them to ensure that the males are also part of the home visit session. We also encourage them to have them at group level. Some come to the group level, but because of dynamics, not all come to the group level, but a majority attend the home visit sessions. Now, as we know that behavior change takes time and it comes out of empowerment, that empowerment over a series of months also creates interest in these males. One, when they see also the change in their female spouses, how they are handling children, how they are handling matters within the house, that also triggers a sense of wanting to know what kind of program exactly are you in that is creating all these changes. The other layer that we use is the faith leaders. Why? Because the whole element of males not engaging in caregiving is ingrained in the culture. And to uproot some of these cultural practices and bring in new ones, then you can only challenge it with something stronger and something that people can believe with another level of intensity compared to what the cultural practices offer. And that is where the faith leaders come on board, also capacity built and equipped to deliver nurturing care messages, encouraging male involvement in their normal faith work. So out of that, we have seen men encouraged to get into nurturing care for early childhood development. And the males that have joined are also used as champions to encourage others to join. Yes. So men like me who are converted are encouraged to bring more.
Yeah, thank you, Charles. Thank you very much. Let's check with the team. It is 16:09. There are still a few questions to be responded to. We also have some refreshment out there. So do we proceed to serve ourselves, get back, and finish, or we finish, then we go? Hello? Did you just say that we finish, then we go? Yes. All right. Thank you. So you want to be a bit fast? There's a question. Did the field officers incorporate the State Department for Children's Services, like the sub-county children officers?
The simple answer to that is yes. But the complex answer is that this program encourages multi-sectoral collaborations at different levels. The first level is at the sub-location level, the community level, where we have the ECD committees. The ECD committees draws different government departments and key players in early childhood development at that level. And so at that level, we have the area advisory councils for which have the volunteer children officers at that particular level. Then at the sub-county level, we now have the sub-county children's officers sitting as part of the multi-sectoral team. At the county level, we have the county children's officer sitting as part of the multi-sectoral team. So the answer is yes. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Charles.
Give it to Charles. Charles, who qualifies to be an ECD promoter?
Who qualifies to be an ECD promoter? Thank you very much for this question. Because the answer is very simple. For as many as might qualify to be community health promoters that we are well aware of, that one I think we are very clear of, the criteria for getting community health promoters. For as many as may qualify for that, such also with a passion for children are likely to qualify to be ECD promoters. Meaning that at community level, we are looking at people also who are well respected in the community, because those are the people who can easily influence others. People who have some basic literacy, can read and write, because there are reports to be done. Yes? And people who have passion also for children, because if that is not the case, then they don't have business here. Thank you. How do you measure passion? We leave that to technocrats like Josh to measure for that stuff.
All right, Charles, here when you speak, know what you are saying, because it is measurement, 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 measurement. I see there's a hand there, but maybe there's a question you may need to respond to quickly.
Yeah, let's respond to this question. Tobias, what training curriculums were they taking through the ECD promoters?
All right.
That was your question.
That's the question you wanted to ask? Okay.
Did you work with the established systems currently as we are coming up with the promoters? Because one of the things that we face when we establish a new line of promoters or a new line that supports any intervention, then it becomes unsustainable beyond the life of the project. And that's why most of the times we require or we request people to integrate within either it's the health system or the children's systems, because you're volunteers in the two lines. So I think when I was responding, because we wanted to understand a little bit more, who are these promoters and how are they, like, are they integrated with the government systems, or are they new people within the space? And then the follow-on question was, how are they trained? Because it becomes very crucial for them to get the right knowledge for them to be able to deliver. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Maybe to quickly take a response of that. One, Charles has spoken to how we get the ECD promoters. So I'll speak to how then they are integrated. So just to be again clear, one, the ECD promoters are not necessarily the community health promoters. So community health promoters is the government structure of delivering primary health care. Now, we took note as we were beginning that in the Kenyan context, one community health promoter is assigned to up to around 100 households. Now, looking at that work vis-a-vis at the intensity of household visitation for the purpose of this project, we took note that it was very difficult to have the same people assigned and expect them to do the same work and get the same quality. However, what we did, one was to ensure at the point of identifying ECD promoters, part of the team that identified them were the community health promoters, because they know the dynamics, they know who is already doing something, because an ECD promoter is also part of the households for the community health promoter, all right? Then the issue about referral was really well coordinated between these promoters and the community health promoters, the government promoters. So there's a lot of coordination, and we have what we call community ECD committees, which is basically partly government officers in respective fields, including the police, okay, that works together with this community to connect them to various services. So if there is a case of SGBV, then we have the police, we have the children, we have, they are there to support this team. So there is a clear curriculum for the ECD promoters, and curriculum also for the ECD committees, and also for the faith leaders. So each of those change agents which were spoken to about here have very clear curriculums. So before they are onboarded and before they're even evaluated, they're able to go through that training so that they are certified as well trained. And in those trainings, we also have government officers accompanying the team doing the training, also to ensure that the facts as they are being laid are facts which have been tested and documented. Thank you.
Yeah, there's an aspect of this that I think really goes beyond our, what do I want to say, our formal institutions, in the sense that the connections that Tobias just described are critical. They have to be there. Remember I said earlier, what we're trying to get here is a way of life, not a project. So nurturing care becomes part of the normal behavior of the community and of the family. What we've seen in, even in this program, although it's been younger, but in others, caregivers themselves are becoming peer promoters of the nurturing care. So you don't need, for that, you don't need a licensed health worker or a trained health worker. You need one mother to one father to another father that is really keeping this going forever in the community. It becomes a way of life. So that's how we were looking at it, while understanding the critical importance of those linkages with the official systems. Does that help a little? Yeah, thank you.
It does. I was not part of that table, but if I can put my small thoughts on the table. In this region, the Eastern and Southern Africa, the church did a lot in terms of bringing the education. But what I've seen is the church or the faith-based groups have done more in primary, secondary, and universities, but they have not done more in ECD. Now, borrowing your words, I'm looking at a day where in this region, ECD shall become part of life of the church, of the faith-based. Because I think that table, what they are pushing us to say, sustainability of the workforce to deliver. We hear you that peer-to-peer can become life, yes, part of the norm, but there should be somebody who is a facilitator in that community. So for me, I would put on the table to say, is this not the time for the church? Because the church is a well-established institution. A church is a well-established institution. I'll give you an example, practical example. I saw a country in this southern Eastern Africa where the Anglican church put ECD as one of the focus areas. So they're not only looking at the religious, but they're also looking at this. So Bologna Your Ways, they are looking at it as part of the life. So I think I'm seeing the government as established institution. I'm also seeing a church as an established institution. So maybe time has come, these promoters being attached to this and becomes part and parcel of the business of the church. I think maybe we can move a little bit. But these are just my thoughts. Yeah.
Thank you for those thoughts. Josh, can you have that mic?
Just a quick one. I have asked about the curriculum, and I have been told that the multi-sectoral were engaged in customizing, because many times we get curriculums from WHO everywhere, but we are meant to Kenyanize them. But I was told it was done at the county level. But I'm appealing because, again, there is also the national. And if you want the learnings to now move to another county, if you fail to involve the national multi-sectoral, then we lose it. So I don't know to what extent you engage the national and what you are going to do about it, because, again, in terms of informing, even the other things that really may need to trickle to other counties. And I'm happy that the focal person for health is here, Dr. Richard. I'm wondering where the Children's Department National is. Thank you.
Thank you. Honestly, as a program, let me make this response. We work, when we come to national, we work through other established entities. Like we will be convened at the regional level by the Lake Region Economic Bloc, which is largely government. At national level, we are convened differently by the division of, the Nurturing Care Program. And we know that when we are convened, we meet different government officers at that level. So that level we come as ECD practitioners, okay? We do not come as this particular one. So we converge there to articulate issue at that level. I think we were even involved when there was a review of the child safety, the policy that was being reviewed. So we have been part of this conversation. The only thing that we bring differently nationally and on table is the Faith Leaders Advisory Council, because then that is not quite aligned to the government line ministries. So that is it. But I think this platform also provides us with information and what we can do differently to enrich the engagement. And therefore, I think we take note, Dr. on what there needs to be done differently. Thank you.
Thank you, Tobias. Josh, are we using the wrong tools for short-term outcomes for ECD programs?
Yes, I heard the question. Are we using the wrong tools?
The mic is there, Joe.
So I think MTM is not a short-term program. So I wouldn't say that, that question in the way it's worded applies to this evaluation, because this is a relatively long-term program or longer-term program. The question of tools will always be a question in this space, because as you were saying, children, depending on the age of the child, the tools are more or less adaptive and responsive, depending on region, culture, materials, access, children's familiarity with different things. It all influences tools. Caregiver report, people in ECD have big battles between caregiver report or direct assessments. And these are limitations that will always exist. I think as more people want to be working to measure child development in the country or districts or counties that they are passionate about or operate in, there needs more investment in testing these tools before you start an evaluation, or you have a really big evaluation that where there's a lot of stakes in. So for everyone in this room, how can you begin trying some different tools and knowing what could work in your context. How can you try a caregiver report or a direct assessment and get some initial learnings so that you know what to do better? For us, not with this evaluation, but another evaluation that we did with the GSED, we did a validation study on the GSED and proved that GSED is a valid tool to measure child development. So the question of whether GSED is accurate is not a question. And we also have evidence from WHO and the whole process that they were doing with the GSED that it is not a random tool. The question still holds on, is it appropriate for measuring program impacts? And that is still for discussion. But I think there's so many concerns and potential questions. The more that we try to collect it and know what our tool is doing a good job at, what our tool is not doing a good job at, it can help us make better decisions in the future. For me and my experience, I would always do CREDI because there is a lot of good evidence that I'm seeing. As we have implemented it, we can see from our experience that it can capture differences in caregivers who have increased knowledge or awareness about child development. So that is not a big concern for me. But there are questions, as Esther, you were saying, about just the accuracy between CREDI and some other measures, or maybe, as you were saying, Boniface, about the age and whether CREDI can work with younger kids versus older kids better or worse. Those still can be true, and I think we just need more research collecting these data. Yeah.
A very simple question for you, Josh. Did the study consider other caregivers, not parents? Example, childcare facilities?
What was the last thing you said?
Did the study consider other caregivers who are not parents?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. We have 7% of our primary caregivers being grandmothers. I think there's more work to look in. Of course, we don't have a large sample size to do some statistical analysis on it, but it is still worth, and that we haven't had time to do, so that is worth us considering. What we did at Endline with internal funding from Emory is, together with B&M, we collected more data from the male caregivers at the Endline. So we actually have about 400 men that we collected data from. We have not fully processed that, but essentially what that means is we have data from the female caregiver and the male caregiver of households in the intervention and control group. We need to do that analysis, but that is waiting to be analyzed. We need time, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
I think there is a part of the question that is not come clear. What is the definition of a caregiver, if I can come from that point? Because caregiving can be in a care center, where I'm taking my baby there in the morning and maybe picking in the evening. It can be by a nanny. It can be by the parent, that is the parent of a she, the parent of a he, or it can be the grandmother, grandfather. So I think that is what we meant, like in the context of this study, what is your definition of the caregiver?
Okay, maybe Josh, let me just respond to that. Thank you. In the context of this study, we have two levels of caregivers. We have primary caregiver and secondary caregiver. And the definition of primary caregiver is this person that stays, who is with the child for most of the time. Literally with the child for most of the time, who knows the needs of the child and who is able to articulate and respond. The secondary caregiver is any person who, of course, supports the child, but is not available to be with the child most of the time. So what that therefore means is that the occasions where the biological mothers of the child are not there, but then the grandmothers are there. So in those cases, they are considered primary caregivers, okay? Part of this question was talking about childcare facilities. We did not do this within the childcare facilities, neither did we do that in other, yeah. So I think that should be a bit clearer in the context of this study.
Allow me to make an addition to what Tobias has said, to what Josh has said, and your question on caregiving. If you remember very well, when Josh presented, there was the percentage of caregivers who were the parents, then the smaller percentage grandparents, and then the others. And then remember, Tobias also talked about getting data from the county governments on the exact situation of where we are implementing. Primarily, the communities we are implementing, the data there does not allow for a household to engage a third person in caregiving. Also remember that these are children below 24 months, so primarily they're not going into any caregiving center, considering the economic situation of the implementation sites. So primarily they're with their parents most of the time.
Thank you, Isabella. How do we know what developmental skills in each domains we are looking for?
I think this comes from a lot of research in psychology that has determined for certain child development tools, language skills means whether you can speak and understand words and blah, blah, blah. I think it comes out of more of a psychological literature. Of course, these things are fluid and vary by culture, so it's not to say there's only one way to measure language, but the way we used it in our study was drawing from how other people have defined domains.
There is a question for all of us. What more can be done to make ECD outcomes more significant? This is not a question for just Josh. It is for all of us, so let's keep thinking through and sharing some ideas moving forward. Is there a hand up? Okay.
Yeah, I will share a little bit on making the results more effective. One is the timing of the intervention. So at what time are we starting the intervention? Is it during pregnancy? Is it when the child is born? So the timing is critical. The second thing is the type of measurement we are interested. Like if you're measuring nutrition outcome, things like stunting is a chronic situation that requires a longer time to see the change. So if you have to take a stunting as your outcome measure, then you need a longer term to see the effect. So the effect you're observing actually determines how you have to assess. For the ECD outcomes, what I have learned, especially those that are related to nutrition, education alone can improve behavior, but at least I've seen in this study that they have improved the dietary diversity, which is actually less likely in many studies to see the dietary change just by education. We are seeing more dietary change for the studies that are having either meals provision or the cash transfer. We are seeing the improvement in the dietary diversity. But for this one, I'm very much actually excited to see some changes in the dietary diversity. So that is also something that I've witnessed. The other thing, I think the whole idea of using the tools, CREDI is also a self-reported tool. So there is a likelihood of mother either over or under-reporting, and that cannot be avoided, actually, if you want to use. But GSED is also useful, but it's more complex because now you have to do those kind of observation, seeing the changes. So the type of tool you're also using can sometimes also increase the aspect that we are measuring or not. But some tools are also designed to measure in the survey, like the ECDI 2030 is purely for the survey. Somehow GSED is also for the surveys and not for the interventions. But I concur with my colleague here that CREDI is the excellent tool if you want to measure the intervention change, because it actually gives you the domain change, like if it's learning problem, it's cognitive, or it's language, it gives you that change. But with the GSED and with the ECDI 2030 and the ECD AIM, it only gives you the results as a score overall, and not giving you this particular domain where the children are not making any progress. Though my colleague here was saying that when you're measuring younger children, they develop very fast and all these domains are interrelated, and sometimes it's very complex to see the change in the younger age because of the interrelation. Like when they are looking, they are also developing cognitive, their language is developing, so many other things are developing, they're related, and that's sometimes very complex when it comes to measuring specific domain for the young age. So those are my very few observations.
Wow. If we're in a church, we'd say what? Amen. Amen. You know, those are very powerful statements. Thank you so much. There's just the second last question, then I think we are just good to go. Mike, be ready to respond. Thank you. You are ready. So what are the possible reasons for low impact and insignificance of ECD outcomes? Is it related to what Esther just said, or you have another response?
We did include it, and we have the analysis. I just haven't shared it. Yeah.
That is excellent.
Yeah, we have it.
That is excellent. That we can account for that in the further study. But the other thing is disaggregating now deeper into the mothers, like maternal age and other things, because there are several other influences of the child development outcome that are social demographic related than just the intervention itself. Like there is an effect of maternal education level, the issue of maternal status, the issue of whether they have insurance or not, and several other indicators. So that is also based development to see where the differences are.
Thank you. And therefore, what was the difference between credit socio-emotional and socio-emotional observed? Let me come
have
closer.
some really smart people reading everything.
This is the last one.
So credit socio-emotional is asking the mother or the caregiver, is your baby crying a lot? Can they get along with other children? The observed is when the enumerator watches the baby and assesses the baby's behavior. So they're two different measures of socio-emotional development.
Okay.
One is reported, one is observed. Was that your question? Okay.
Okay, thank you. And the last one is just a concern as to whether the program outcomes would be reducing after a period of time. And then, of course, were the processes sustained after the program ended 6 months ago. So I think Josh spoke to that. And we saw majority of areas which were evaluated were sustained, with some other areas with some decline. Is that correct statement, Josh?
Yes. And then you also talked about how you're doing a cycle 3, and so there's other activities about program sustainability or continuation.
Thank you. So that is the end of our Q&A. Are we happy? Yeah. Have we learned something? Okay. So thank you so much. That's well done. I hope there's nothing burning. We can always interact for the next few days for those who will be around. Jerry, you want something?
Oh, yeah. I just want to thank everybody again, and especially, you know, Josh and Michael and all of you. I'm just so thrilled. You know, we're 40 minutes over, and everybody is still here and interested. So that's so exciting for us. And we're so grateful, and we would love to engage more with you on this anytime you're interested, learn from you. What are you doing? How does it fit with this? And we're just very grateful. So thank you very, very much. There are some great refreshments outside, including, and it's not enough for a lot of people, we had a very special celebration for Priscilla and our cluster meeting on Saturday, celebrating both her birthday and the upcoming birth of her baby. So there's some cake left over there too.
Thank you. Did you hear that she's celebrating her birthday? See, there's what we do. When there's a celebration of a birthday, do we just say, yeah? Yes. We are going to do it because, yeah. So can we just have Mr. Kimenya come and close us? So after that, we are going to have a group photo, please, please. And after that closing, then we'll request Bishop Professor Kodia to do us a closing prayer. Katie? Let's settle a bit. Esther, I hope you are sitting well, or you want to leave.
Thank you, Tobias. So you are closed. So since Tobias said I close us, I'm intending to be very, very brief. I like the excitement that work around ECD and the space that is ECD is getting in terms of attention. And really, it's attention that we want to leverage in, even as we look to really have that Kenyan child grow well into adulthood and productivity for that matter. So we want to appreciate the study proponents, the Episcopal Episcopal Relief, and the Moments That Matter program. I hope I'm getting this right. And I want to believe that even going forward, even as more work get into the analysis and looking back into that particular data, then we will be able to sieve out into the basket of evidence, the basket of elements, so that we synthesize indicators that will really speak of that Kenyan child. So as we close, I think it's also important I mention that part of those tools, the GSED tool and the ICDEA tool, is part of what we have adapted as a country and inculcated into our mini DHS. So we will look to see how this pans out on a larger scale, since part of the limitation in this particular study was the small sample size. But all the same, we appreciate the work. You've seen how much discussion it's bringing on the table. So we will be in to do invites and bring this conversation and pull into the many other surveys and services that we continue to give in the ECD space to come and inform that ultimate dashboard that we want to see and the indicators that go with it. So with those few remarks, since I can close again. So we want to declare the meeting closed, but certainly not the conversation. Okay? Good.
Thank you very much. Let's all close the meeting, but not the conversation. So thank you. So this is how we are going to take the photos, please. We want to request that we take all of us here, and Kevin had said that we move one of the tables. Is one table? Yeah, so just come so that we do. Charles, come and help. We move the tables quickly. So all of us will take that. we seriously request that you stay with us for this picture. Please. And then after that, we have the government officers. We'll then have a photo with you. And then we know the Hilton team and our bishops, the trustees. Thank you. So Kevin, please, 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 I know these distinguished guests will leave if we are not swift. Priscilla. Priscilla. Askofu, come sit here. Yeah, I want Bishop to sit here. I want Jerry, please have a seat. Bishop, please have a seat. Erin. We had the UNICEF team. Josh.
You want me to sit here or sit?
Josh.
Where's Esther? Esther, come. Karibu. Please, let's come. Where is? Let me have. Kemenyi. Excuse. Mike, kaa hapa hivi. Songa hapa hivi. Yes, we love all of them. Okay. Just sit here. Then,
I don't want to be in front. Aaron is representing. Yes.
And then we also had. Who else? I've put Dr. there already. So who else? Who? Oh, Priscilla. Okay. It's okay. Okay, let me look for where my face will be. Can I be saying something?
pray. Okay, we pray. Lord, you are always amazing, and your gifts always outstretch our expectation. Here we are gathered from morning up to now, sharing our insights on how we can promote the welfare of our young ones who are vulnerable. Thank you for the gifts of these people who have come together to form part of the team that will inspire our actions as churches, as communities, as governments. May you continue, oh Lord, to walk with us this journey. We know where there is hope, there is always the motivation even to do better than we have done. Thank you for the professionals who had worked on this research and even the interrogations that we have made on it. It is for the enrichment of the whole scope of our involvement in the children's ministry. Thank you, Lord, for the time that we have had, even as we live now. May you continue to be with us. For in Christ Jesus we pray and believe. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So may I just have the national team kindly. Richard and your team, please remain behind. And then the Hilton team, please don't leave. Kevin, please, Kevin. Kuja. Let's see, daktari, kaeni. Sasa mkae na sisi. So the national team, are you okay? Okay, let's have the national team. Jerry, please. Esther, you should not go. Esther, you should not go. Wait here. Refreshment is out there. We're just doing
Is it doing what?
a picture.
A picture, another picture?
Yes, sorry. Yes, Sam. Where's our Sam? Sam, have a seat. Sam, we are taking a picture. Okay. Priscilla, come. Episcopal team, please. Kevin, the guests are going. Elisa, here we are. ADS Western, please. Isabella, please come. Yes, let's be here. Okay, there we are. Charles. Okay.